The first thing I noticed was her hand shaking. My ex-wife, Emily Carter, sat across from me at a small coffee shop near the courthouse. Her eyes were red, her lips pale. She had begged me to meet her one final time. I almost didn't come. Then I saw the man beside her. He was older, maybe late 50s. Gray hair, calm eyes. He wore a plain brown jacket and held a thick folder on his lap. He did not look angry. He looked prepared. Emily kept staring at the table like it might swallow her. Finally, the man turned to me and said, "Mr. Carter, my name is Daniel Brooks. I'm a court-appointed guardian, and I'm here to tell you the truth about everything your ex-wife hid from you." My heart stopped. Emily started crying. Loud, ugly, like she had been holding it in for years. Daniel opened the folder. The first page had my name on it. That was when I realized this meeting was not about closure. It was about a lie so big it ruined my life. And I still didn't know who would leave that table alive. Before I tell you how this ends, or how it really began, do me a small favor. If you want the truth, the full truth, and the revenge that followed, like the story, keep watching and subscribe. Because what happened next still wakes me up at night. My name is Michael Carter. I am 38 years old. I grew up in Ohio in a small town where everyone knew your business before you did. My dad worked construction. My mom was a school aide. We didn't have much, but we had dinner together every night and laughed a lot. I met Emily when I was 26. She worked at a local daycare. She smiled like the world was kind. She laughed at my dumb jokes. When she said she loved me, I believed her with my whole chest. We got married 2 years later. At first, life was simple. I worked as a delivery manager. Emily stayed home more and said she wanted to start a family soon. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. The second mistake was ignoring the small cracks. She hit her phone when I walked in. She cried in the shower. She asked strange questions about life insurance and wills. When I asked what was wrong, she said, "You worry too much, Mike." Then the worst low hit. One night, she told me she wanted a divorce. No fight, no warning, just cold words. "I don't love you anymore," she said. I begged. I cried. I asked what I did wrong. She stared at the wall and said nothing. 3 months later, she was gone. Took half the house. Took most of our savings. Took my dog. I fell apart. I drank too much. Missed work. Lost friends. I trusted her, and she crushed me like I was nothing. That was the low. The high, the dangerous one, came later. A year after the divorce, I was arrested. They said I assaulted a man in a parking lot. That man was Ryan Miller, Emily's new boyfriend. He told the police I attacked him with no reason. I told them he was lying. Emily testified against me in court. She looked right at me and said I was violent, unstable, dangerous. I was sentenced to 8 months. Jail changes you. In there, you learn how quiet can be loud. You learn how betrayal tastes worse than hunger. I replayed my marriage every night, trying to see what I missed. When I got out, I had nothing left but questions. Then, 2 weeks ago, Emily called me. Her voice was small, broken. "Mike," she said, "please, I need to see you. Just once. I'll explain everything. There's someone who needs to talk to you." I laughed. I told her she ruined my life. She whispered, "I know." That's why I came. Back to the coffee shop. Back to Daniel Brooks and his folder. Daniel slid one paper toward me. "Mr. Carter," he said softly, "did you know you have a son?" The room tilted. Emily screamed my name. I couldn't breathe. Daniel continued, "He's 7 years old. His name is Noah. And legally, he's yours." I stood up so fast my chair fell over. Emily grabbed my arm. "I was scared," she cried. "I thought I was protecting him." Protecting him from what? I yelled. Daniel didn't flinch. He turned the page. "From the men you trusted," he said. "From the crime you were framed for. And from the truth that put you in jail instead of the real killer." The word killer hit me like a punch. I looked at Emily. Her eyes were full of guilt. Daniel leaned closer. "Mr. Carter, the man you were accused of attacking? Ryan Miller? I nodded slowly. Daniel said, he's dead. My legs went weak. And Daniel added, the police are reopening the case. At that moment, 2 squad cars pulled up outside the cafe. Lights flashing. Emily screamed. Daniel closed a folder. And I realized my revenge had already started, whether I wanted it or not. The flashing lights outside the cafe painted the walls red and blue, like the world was bleeding. Emily grabbed my sleeve harder. Please, she whispered. Don't let them take me. I pulled my arm away. For once, I didn't rush to save her. Daniel Brooks stood up calmly, like this was expected. Michael, he said, sit down. This isn't about arresting you. Not yet. Not yet. Those 2 words crawled into my head and refused to leave. The police officers walked in. People in the cafe stared. Phones came out. A woman gasped. The barista froze behind the counter. One officer nodded at Daniel. Mr. Brooks. Daniel nodded back. We'll step outside. Emily started shaking harder. Tears poured down her face. Mike, I never wanted to go this far. I looked at her and felt nothing. No love. No hate. Just a deep, cold hole. Tell me about my son, I said. Now. Daniel paused, then sat back down. The officers waited near the door. Noah was born while you were still married, Daniel said. Emily hid the pregnancy. She told doctors you were abusive. She said you would hurt the child. Emily sobbed. I was scared, Mike. Ryan told me you'd ruin us. Ryan. Even dead, his name burned. Daniel went on. Ryan Miller was part of a larger fraud case. Fake identities. Insurance scams. He needed Emily to lie. When you started asking questions back then, you became a problem. My chest tightened. So they framed me? Yes, Daniel said. The assault, the testimony, the jail time. It was all set up to keep you quiet. I clenched my fists. Jail bars flashed in my mind. Nights without sleep. The sound of doors slamming shut. And Noah? I asked. Daniel's voice softened. He's in foster care now. Emily lost custody last month. Emily screamed. They took him. I tried to stop it. I stood up again. You lied for 7 years. You watched me go to jail. And you think I care why you're scared now. She fell to her knees. That should have felt good. It didn't. Outside, one officer cleared his throat. We need Emily to come with us. She looked up at me, eyes wild. Mike, Ryan killed someone. I saw it. I helped hide it. I didn't know how to escape. The cafe went silent. Daniel closed his eyes. The officer's hand moved to his radio. I felt the ground drop under me. Murder? I asked slowly. Emily nodded, shaking. A man named Thomas Reed. Ryan stabbed him during a deal gone wrong. He said if I ever talked, he'd take Noah. The officer stepped forward. Emily Carter, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice and conspiracy. They handcuffed her. She screamed my name as they pulled her up. I did it for our son. I watched them take her away. Daniel touched my shoulder. Michael, this isn't over. Ryan's death complicates everything. How did he die? I asked. Daniel hesitated. Officially, hit and run. Unofficially, someone wanted him silenced. That night, I couldn't sleep. I saw Noah's face in my dreams, even though I'd never met him. The next morning, I went to the courthouse with Daniel. Paperwork, DNA tests, interviews. Every step felt unreal. Then the test came back. 99.9%. Noah was mine. I cried in the bathroom like a child. But joy didn't last long. 2 days later, a man followed me home. He wore a black hoodie, stayed just far enough behind. When I turned, he smiled. I'm Victor Hale, he said, Ryan's partner. My blood ran cold. He told me all about you, Victor continued. About jail, about Emily, about the kid. I tried to walk past him. He blocked me. You ruined a lot of things, he said softly. People don't like that. I shoved him. He laughed. That night, my apartment door was kicked in. I woke up on the floor, blood in my mouth, sirens screaming outside. Victor was gone. Daniel visited me in the hospital. His face was pale. Michael, he said, Victor Hale turned himself in. Why? I croaked. He confessed to killing Ryan Miller. I frowned. That makes no sense. Daniel leaned closer. He also said he did it because you asked him to. My heart stopped. I never. Daniel raised a hand. I know, but the police don't. At that moment, the door opened. 2 detectives walked in. Michael Carter, one said, "We need to talk." I realized then that revenge doesn't always wait for permission. And this time it was coming for me. The detectives didn't sit down. That's how I knew this wasn't a friendly talk. One of them was tall with tired eyes. The other was younger, hand already resting near his belt. The tall one spoke first. Michael Carter, he said, "You're a person of interest in the death of Ryan Miller." I laughed. It came out dry and broken. He put me in jail. Why would I help kill him? The younger detective slid a photo onto the bed. It showed Victor Hale, bruised and bloody, sitting in an interview room. He says you contacted him. The detective said, "Promise money. Promise revenge." "That's a lie," I said. "I've never even met him before he threatened me." The tall detective nodded slowly, like he'd heard that line before, then explained this. He pulled out my phone records. There it was, a call made from my number to Victor's burner phone, 3 minutes long, 2 days before Ryan died. My stomach dropped. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I didn't make that call." The younger detective shrugged. "Phones don't lie." They left me with that. Daniel Brooks arrived an hour later, his calm face cracked with worry. "Someone cloned your number," he said. "Victor is setting you up." "Why?" I asked. Daniel's voice went low. "Because you're the clean fall guy. Ex-con, angry ex-husband, motive written all over you." I stared at the ceiling. "So what do we do?" "We protect Noah," Daniel said, "and we expose the truth before it's buried." I was released that night. Outside the hospital, the air felt wrong. Heavy, like something bad was waiting. Daniel drove me to a small house on the edge of town. "This is where Noah is," he said. My hands shook as we walked to the door. A foster mom answered. Kind eyes. Soft smile. She called his name. Noah ran into the room. He had my eyes. Same dark hair. Same crooked smile. He looked at me like he already knew me. "Are you my dad?" he asked. I dropped to my knees and hugged him. For the first time in years, I felt whole. That was the high. It didn't last. 2 nights later, my phone rang at 2 a.m. A known number. I answered. Victor's voice filled the room. "You look good with a kid," he said. My blood turned to ice. "Stay away from him." He chuckled. "That depends. See, I didn't kill Ryan for free." "I didn't ask you to kill anyone," I said. "I know," he replied, "but I need you to take the blame anyway." The line went dead. The next morning, Noah was gone. The foster mom was found tied up, but alive. A note was left on the table. "Confess or he disappears forever." I broke. I ran to the police. They arrested me within the hour. In the interrogation room, they showed me a video. Noah sat in a chair, scared, a man's hand on his shoulder. Victor leaned into the camera. "You have 48 hours. I was charged with conspiracy to commit murder. They denied bail. Jail welcomed me back like an old enemy. I stared at the bars and thought of my son, crying for me. Then something unexpected happened. A guard slipped me a note. "Daniel isn't who you think. Trust no one." My heart pounded. Later that night, my cell door opened. A man stepped in wearing a guard's uniform. He removed his cap. It was Daniel Brooks. "Michael," he whispered, "we're out of time." Before I could speak, alarms blared. Shouts echoed. Daniel grabbed my arm. "Victor is moving Noah tonight. If we don't act now, he'll kill him. Why should I trust you?" I hissed. He looked me straight in the eyes. "Because I'm Noah's real guardian. And because Emily didn't lie about everything." Gunshots rang out in the hallway. Daniel pushed a gun into my hand. "Choose," he said. "Stay here and lose your son forever, or walk out and become what they already think you are. I looked at the gun, then at the open door, and I stepped forward, just as the lights went out and the prison exploded into chaos. The lights came back on in flashes. Red alarms screamed like wounded animals. Men shouted. Boots pounded the floor. Smoke filled the air. Daniel pulled me through the hallway like he had done this before. "Keep your head down," he said. I didn't even ask how he got me out. At that point, I didn't care. All I could see was Noah's face in my mind. Scared, alone, waiting for a father who kept failing him. We burst through a side exit and ran into the cold night. A van waited by the fence. Daniel shoved me inside and jumped in after me. The engine roared to life. Only then did I turn and look at him. "You lied to me," I said. "You said you were court-appointed." He nodded once. That was half true. What's the other half? He took a deep breath. I used to be a federal investigator. Victor Hale's crew destroyed a lot of families. Ryan Miller was just one piece. And Emily? I asked. Daniel's jaw tightened. She was a coward, but she was also trapped. The van stopped near an empty warehouse by the river. "This is where Victor keeps his backups," Daniel said. "Phones, videos, leverage." We went inside. Boxes everywhere. Laptops, files with names on them, including mine. I felt sick. Daniel pulled up a video on one of the screens. It showed Emily, years ago, crying and signing papers. Ryan stood behind her, smiling. "He forced her," Daniel said quietly. "Threatened Noah from the moment he was born." I swallowed hard. "So why frame me?" I asked. "Because you were clean," Daniel said. "No criminal past. No dirt. Perfect target." Anger burned through me, hot and sharp. Daniel touched my arm. "Michael, listen. Victor wants you to confess. So the case closes. If you do, Noah lives. If you don't—" "I know," I said. "He dies." We heard footsteps outside. Daniel cursed. "Too late." Victor walked in, clapping slowly. "Family reunion," he said. "Beautiful." He had a gun. 2 men stood behind him. "Drop it," he told Daniel. Daniel did. Victor smiled at me. "You could have been smart. Quiet. But no, you had to be a hero. Where's my son?" I asked. Victor tilted his head. "Safe. For now." He tossed the phone onto the floor. It rang. I answered. Noah's voice came through, small and shaking. "Dad." My knees almost gave out. "I'm here, buddy." Victor leaned close. "Last chance," he whispered. "Confess. Publicly. On video." Daniel shook his head slowly. I looked at him. Then I looked at Victor. And I made my choice. I grabbed the phone and smashed it into Victor's face. The warehouse exploded into chaos. Gunshots. Screams. I tackled Victor to ground. His gun went off, hitting one of his men. Daniel grabbed the other man and slammed him into a shelf. Victor punched me hard. Stars filled my vision. "You think you can win?" he spat. "You're already dead." I grabbed a metal rod and swung. It hit his leg. He screamed. Sirens wailed in the distance. Victor laughed through the pain. "Too late," he said. "My men are moving the kid." Daniel froze. I felt my heart tear open. Victor smiled wider. "By the time you find him, he'll be gone." Police burst in seconds later. Victor was dragged away, bleeding but smiling. Daniel and I were cuffed too. As they pulled me out, an officer whispered in my ear, "We found a body by the river." My blood ran cold. "A child?" I asked. The officer didn't answer. That silence was louder than any siren. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival. The words, "We found a body by the river," kept echoing in my head like a gunshot that never faded. I sat in the back of a police car, hands cuffed, heart beating so hard I thought it would break my ribs. Daniel was in another car. Victor was in an ambulance, still alive, still smiling like a devil who knew the ending of the story. I kept seeing Noah's face, his small hands, his scared eyes, his voice calling me Dad. I didn't care about jail anymore. I didn't care about the case. I didn't care about revenge. I only care about one thing. Was my son alive? At the station, they put me in a room alone. White walls, metal table, one chair. Time stopped meaning anything. Minutes felt like hours. Then the door opened. A female detective walked in. Short hair, tired eyes. She sat down slowly. "Michael," she said softly, "we found a body near the river warehouse." My mouth went dry. "A child?" She hesitated. That pause almost killed me. "No," she said, "an adult male, one of Victor's men." My whole body collapsed in relief. I started crying like a broken kid. "Where's my son?" I begged. She looked away. "We don't know yet." That was worse than bad news, because hope hurts more than fear. They released me that night. No charges, no apology, just silence and papers. Daniel was waiting outside. "They move him," he said. "But Victor didn't kill him." "How do you know?" I asked. Daniel held up a phone. A message, coordinates, a time, and one line. "Bring the truth, not the cops." Victor. We drove in silence. The place was an old abandoned church in a small town outside the city. Broken windows, white paint peeling, a dead tree in front like a warning sign. We went in slow. Candles were lit inside. Soft light. Footsteps echoed. Then I heard breathing. Small, scared. I ran. Noah was tied to a chair near the altar. Alive. Crying. I untied him and held him so tight he gasped. "I'm here," I whispered. "Daddy's here." For 1 second, the world felt right. Then slow clapping filled the room. Victor stepped out from behind the altar, gun in hand, smile on his face. "Touching," he said. "Really touching." Daniel raised his hands. Victor laughed. "You two just don't learn." I stood in front of Noah. "Take me," I said. "Let him go." Victor shook his head. "No, I want something better." He pointed the gun at Daniel. "Truth," Victor said. "On camera, about everything. Ryan, Emily, the fraud, the murders, the frame jobs." Daniel froze. "Say it," Victor ordered. Daniel slowly pulled out his phone. He started recording. He spoke. He confessed. Names. Crimes. Deals. Cover-ups. Everything. I realized the truth then. Daniel wasn't just a helper. He was part of the system that let monsters live. When the video ended, Victor smiled. Perfect. He raised the gun at Noah. My heart stopped. Before he could pull the trigger, Daniel moved. He tackled Victor. The gun went off. The sound was deafening. I grabbed Noah and ran. Another shot. A scream. Then silence. Police sirens filled the air. Blue and red lights broke through the broken windows. When I turned back, Victor was on the floor, dead. Daniel was bleeding. Badly. He looked at me and smiled weakly. "Get him out," he whispered. Then his eyes closed. Daniel Brooks died on the church floor. They took Victor's body. They took Daniel's body. They took statements. They took the video. And for the first time, the truth finally had a voice. Weeks later, the news exploded. Ryan Miller exposed. Victor Hale's network exposed. Corrupt officers arrested. Fake cases reopened. My name cleared. Public apology. Official record wiped clean. Emily's charges grew. More crimes came out. More lies. She was sentenced. Long time. When I saw her in court, she cried. I felt nothing. Noah held my hand. That was my justice. But revenge wasn't done with me yet, because the final truth still hadn't come out. And the last person who needed to answer was me. That night, I found a letter in my mailbox. No stamp. No name. Just one line. Your son was never supposed to live. And that's when I knew the war wasn't over. I read that line over and over. Your son was never supposed to live. My hands shook, but my mind was calm. Too calm. That's how I knew the fear was gone. Whoever sent that letter thought I was still the broken man who went to jail, the man who begged, the man who lost everything. They were wrong. I didn't call the police. I didn't tell the news. I did something smarter. I waited. 2 nights later, my phone rang. Blocked number. I answered. "You got my letter." A man said. His voice was smooth. Cold. Confident. "Who are you?" I asked. A pause. "My name is Charles Whitman," he said. "I was Ryan Miller's boss." My heart beat once. Hard. "You're dead," I said. "That's what the news said." He laughed softly. Dead on paper. Alive in the shadows. I said nothing. "You see," he continued, "Victor was loud. Ryan was stupid. Daniel was weak. But me? I clean messes." "Then why call me?" I asked. "Because you're the mess that survived," he said. "And that bothers me." I smiled. "Meet me," he said. "One last time. Come alone." I looked at Noah asleep on the couch, holding my jacket like it was armor. "I'll come," I said, "but I'm bringing the truth." He gave an address. An old courthouse parking garage. I knew the place. That's where my life broke the first time. Perfect. I didn't go alone. I just didn't bring cops. When I arrived, Charles Whitman stood by a black car. Expensive. Clean. Like him. He looked normal. That's the scary part. "You ruined everything," he said calmly. "You should have stayed quiet." "You took my son," I replied. "That was your mistake." He raised an eyebrow. "I didn't take him." I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Audio. His voice. This phone call. Recorded. His calm breath. His confession. His silence. "I learned something in jail." I said, "Always record." His face changed the first time. "You think that saves you?" he snapped. "No," I said. "It ends you." Lights flooded the garage. Sirens. FBI agents poured in from every side. Guns raised. Orders shouted. Charles turned to run. He'd make it 3 steps. They pinned him to the ground. As they cuffed him, he looked up at me. "You think you won?" he hissed. I leaned down so only he could hear me. "You lost the moment my son lived." He screamed as they dragged him away. The trial was fast. The evidence was heavy. The network was bigger than anyone knew. Charles Whitman was sentenced to life. No parole. Emily watched from prison on a screen. She cried again. I still felt nothing. 6 months later, I stood in a small courtroom again. But this time, Noah stood beside me. The judge smiled. "Michael Carter," she said, "do you accept full custody?" I looked down at my son. He squeezed my hand. "Yes," I said, "with my life." The gavel came down. Just like that, the war ended. We moved. New town. New name. New start. I teach Noah how to ride a bike. We eat dinner together every night. We laugh. Sometimes, late at night, I still remember the man I used to be, the one who trusted too easily, the one who lost everything. But then I look at my son, and I remember who I became. Not a monster, not a victim, a father. And if there's one thing the people who hurt me learned too late, it's this. You can take a man's freedom. You can take his name. You can take his past. But if you threaten his child, you create something far more dangerous than revenge. You create a man who will never lose again.